Colonel Roy Mustang is here, and today we're testing him out in Arena, Champion Arena. We're bringing him in as a slow nuker on a cleave team. I never thought that I'd be able to showcase a unit on an actual cleave team, but here we are, and we're testing him with Ren. We're trying to get as much damage as possible with him. So he is on a slow nuker build. You'll see here he hit that Celine for almost 20k on his S1. Now we have him on the Grace of Growth, meaning he's only plus 12. Okay, he is plus 5 on his skill number 3, which is Scorching Heat, plus 5 on his skill number 2, and only plus 2 on his skill 1. Now keep in mind, unfortunately, we can't choose where the skill ups go. Maybe in a future update we'll be able to get that, but for now he's plus 2 on his skill number 1, which I think is going to be his number 1 skill priority for Molas if you decide to invest on this unit. But you'll see here we do try to bring him against units that we can potentially outspeed. If not, we try to bring in a speed imprint just to push us up a little bit further. But you'll notice right away that he's not really doing much, right? When he gets a turn though, you want him to deal as much damage as possible. So that's why we have him on this build. In this fight, he just kind of was there for moral support. But we have him at 5.3k attack, 300 crit damage, 96 crit because that's the highest that we can get, in 200 speed. Anything lower, and I think it would have been very difficult for us to push ahead. So that's why we try to bring in Politis and Ada, because they have some CR manipulation, right? Politis with that CR reduction, right, on her S2, and then we got Ada for the manipulation on the S3 for the combat readiness. But here we're bringing in a lot of souls, and that's the thing about his kit, which I wasn't too sure about, okay? Because his passive, Hero of Ishval, does reduce damage, and it cannot exceed damage suffered by more than 51% of his max health. So he is going to be insanely squishy, and so this is supposed to give him some more survivability. But he gains 40 fighting spirit, okay, from his passive. 40 fighting spirit. He needs 80 to be able to use his S3. However, his skill number 1 only gives him 30 fighting spirit. That's a total of 70 fighting spirit. So that means that after he S1s, he's not going to get his S3 until he S1s again. So he needs to soul burn potentially 2 times with his skill number 1 before you can skill 3. And I'm pretty sure you already saw that most of the fights that he was in, he attacked maybe once, and that was it. So most of the time we never got to use our skill number 3. So we said, you know what, let's just bring a bunch of books and soul burn his S1 until we can guarantee ourselves the S3. And you'll see that here onto the Alencia. We're able to do giga damage, 20k on the S3 on the Alencia. But that's the thing, right? We had to soul burn twice with his S1 to get a chance at his S3. I think this is where he falls short. He's a lot of fun if you got a lot of souls to burn, right? Otherwise, it's probably going to be a bad time, because you want him to nuke out a unit every time that he goes. So for sure, he's going to need the plus 5 skill ups on his S1. I think that you could skip out on his S2, you know, that passive giving him some survivability, because you want him to kill, right? When he goes, he needs to have extreme value on his turn. You'll see here we're able to soul burn. We don't destroy this FCC. We do about 8k. I'm pretty sure if we would have had attack buff, full Molas, we would have killed. You'll see here we finally are able to hit with the S3, and we actually do pretty decent amount of damage. I think, you know, wiping out the entire team and just leaving one unit, I think that's fine, especially without an attack buff, right? He does deal a really good amount of damage. Keep in mind though, we have him at 5k attack, 5.3k attack, 300 crit damage. Okay, so slow nuker. So if you build him faster, maybe like 240, 250 range, he's probably gonna have a lot less attack, crit damage. So will he be one-shotting with his S1? maybe not. Maybe if you're soul burning like we were trying to do, right? He is a lot of fun if you have a lot of those souls built up, because you can just snap and snap and snap and then hit everybody with the S3 and then the entire team is gone. And then you might follow up with 1 or 2 units. But for the most part, he does what he needs to do, right? And that's deal damage. However, it does take a lot to set him up because of the fighting spirit. So like I mentioned, you have to soul burn, and he is either just going to stand there and do nothing while your entire team rips apart the enemy team, or he's probably going to die because he's only going to S1 once. He's not going to live long enough to hit you with his S3, to S1, right, 2 times, and then hit you with the S3 to finally take out. In that one fight, we were actually able to S3 because we had enough souls, right? And that's kind of the thing, you know, bringing him into arena. It's a controlled environment, so we're able to do this. But I don't know how he's going to fare in GVG, right? Or even RTA, because he's going to be very difficult to position unless you have an insane amount of speed to be able to push him up and pretty much soften up the entire team with his S1s, right? And then follow up with everybody else. Here, we are able to finally get enough fighting spirit and hit with the S3. Proof of Valor, A.Ravi. We hit for 17k, right? He does give himself attack buff on the S3, which I think is really, really nice. 17k, that's pretty respectable damage. And then we're able to finish up with the Assassin Sid there. So, I mean, not too bad. You know, I was thinking that we could have ran you know, Silver Rain on our Ran, right, to give the attack buff to our Roy. But the thing is, we don't have that artifact fully maxed out. But here's an example of what not to do with him. Don't bring him into Rems. And that's what you'll see a lot. You'll see Rems, you'll see a lot of Choux, and their ice units, right? And for sure, if the Rem is on defense, she's going to counter at least once, taking off your buff, which is going to be really detrimental to you dealing some damage, right? You need that Flame Alchemist buff, which increases your hit chance and attack by 20%. So he gets that attack buff of 20% just from being on the field. Once he does get hit by an ice unit, it's gone. It's completely gone. It gets dispelled. You'll see here in this one, we're able to deal a pretty good amount of damage. He goes with the S1, but I think in order to have taken out that Mercedes, we would have needed attack buff or the max molas on the S1. So again, if you're bringing him in, ideally, you're probably going to bring him in with a bunch of souls, potentially an attack buff unit. I think Silver Rain on Ran, if you're bringing him, you could have brought Conqueror Lilias as well. And then just put him to work, right? I think he's going to work best in regular arena if you have a lot of souls. He's like one of those units like ML Celine. So if you have ML Celine and you bring a bunch of souls, right, you can just indefinitely soul burn the S1 and just deal insane amounts of damage. Lionheart Army is another fun unit, right? He does feel like he can do a lot of damage and potentially nuke out one unit at a time if you have soul burns, if you have max molas on the S1. And that's kind of the great thing about this Grace of Unity. We're able to see, for the most part, how they can do, right, in a controlled environment. You know, maxed everything except the molas, of course, but I think he does pretty well. And if you are a cleaver or you play highly aggressive with your team comps, I think he's going to do really well for you. But keep in mind, you do have to plus 15 him. If not, plus 12 minus his passive, which you're probably not going to need. But here you go. Roy Mustang putting in work in arena, dealing a lot of damage with his S3 when you can get it on. And that's the thing. I think they really need to change the amount of fighting spirit that he gets, because like I mentioned, he doesn't survive long enough to actually use his S3. Plenty of fights that we tried in arena, we never got to use our S3 because he never earned enough fighting spirit, because he didn't get enough turns. And it could be because we played him slow, but even then, you know, you are still going to want to soul burn with the S1 so that you can gain that fighting spirit. Even if you had him insanely fast, it's going to take him 2 turns to cycle before he has enough fighting spirit. You'll see here, we're able to finally get the S3, but the Rimu has skill null, so we're unable to hit him with the S3. Politis ends up cleaning up house. But for the most part, I think he did really well in Arena for how we built him. So here he is, 5.3k attack, 200 speed, 96 crit, so 50-50 crit, right? 300 crit damage, 200 speed. We do have him on book. We tried him on book. We tried him on his own limited artifact, and we also tried him on portrait. And out of the three, for sure, he's going to need the Tagahel's Ancient Books, which is going to give him 20 souls. And I mentioned he needs to soul burn in order to gain enough fighting spirit. He gains 40 when he starts the battle. When he attacks once, he gains 30. So that's 70. He needs 80 before he can use his S3. He does give himself an attack buff before he S3s, which I think is really good, and it really adds to his damage, right? Because he's getting a 50% attack push on his S3 from the increased attack, and he's getting an additional 20% attack from his Flame Alchemist. So if you have both, he's going to deal a really big amount of damage on his S3 and potentially his S1. He does penetrate defense on his S1 by 50%, but keep in mind that the best thing that you're going to be able to do with him, if you're just trying to nuke out units with his snap on his S1, is bring an attack buff. So you're going to want an attack buff and some souls so you can soul burn this, earn enough souls to be able to use the S3, which does require 80 fighting spirit. I think if they adjusted his passive to gain 50 fighting spirit to start off, so that way you just need to soul burn once and then hit everybody with the S3, I think that's definitely going to put him in a way better spot. But let me know what you think. Have you tested Roy? Did you end up pulling for him? Let me know how you plan on building him. We're going to try him out in Guild War next. Like always, if you haven't enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, think about subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people like you who like content like this. Like always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.